Ghana's youngest learners have a new option for remote learning during the pandemic. With schools closed since mid-March, the Ghanaian government and USAID team up to provide a radio learning program for millions of students.
A new ride for mothers with babies on the way. Through contributions, women in Jigawa State purchased a car to transport mothers in labor for medical care.
Trapped inside during the coronavirus lockdown, gamers in the Democratic Republic of Congo seek to share the gaming experience with friends, and entrepreneurs happily provide more options.
Hello and thanks for tuning into the show that goes around the continent to bring stories near and far. I'm Chamberlain Uso at Channels Television here in Lagos. I'm joined by Vincent McCory from Voice of America in Washington.
Well, thanks. I'm Vincent McCory. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Well, due to the global outbreak of COVID-19, the Voice of America has reduced staffing at VOA headquarters in Washington. So, as you see, our broadcast looks a little different for now. We appreciate you staying with us on Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Chamberlain Uso in Lagos brings you that story.
Well, that's right. Some women in Jigawa State are taking matters of their child and maternal health in their own hands. The women decided to buy a car through contribution to help women in labor awaiting delivery. They're even planning more projects such as combating flood in their community. Channels Television Sadiq Ilyas found the story from Jigawa State.
Bado Village, a small community, is a hard-to-reach area in Taura local government area of Jigawa State in northwest Nigeria. Access to the village is difficult due to the lack of access roads. The closest comprehensive health center from here is about 32 kilometers. So medical emergencies are really a challenge, and women in this community are taking up the responsibility to solve the problem. Each woman contributing 1,000 naira from the conditional cash transfer program given to them by the federal government. This car is the outcome of that effort. Aisha Abdul is one of the beneficiaries. She couldn't make it to the hospital before her child came. Nonetheless, the husband insists she needs to get more professional medical attention after the intervention of local midwives at her delivery.
It is with the cash transfer that we are receiving from the federal government that we sat down and thought of how we can help ourselves. So we decided to contribute 1,000 naira each and we bought this vehicle.
She is not the first beneficiary.
We're very happy that we are receiving that money. I was taken to the hospital in the car we bought when I was about to give birth to this baby that I'm packing.
Those women, they're real women. Because as a mother, you need to have a mercy, a sympathy of your colleague, of whoever is in difficulty. So they are really displaying that they are good mothers. So I was really happy when I heard about it. And I know women, we can do more than that. We can do more than that, as far as if we have gotten the appropriate support and courage.
The car project costs 1 million naira from 2 months' contributions. But it's not the only community project the women have. That is, aside from the maintenance of the car.
For more on that story, we're joined by the Commissioner for Women Affairs in Jigawa, Yalwa Dao. She joins us via Skype from the state capital. Thank you for joining us today on Africa 54. Let's start by, how did you react to the effects of the efforts of Bado women when you first got it?
I was overjoyed. I was happy. It was astonishing for rural women to think to do something for their community. That is very, very commendable. They used the money given by Baba Buhari, the 5,000 being given to them. They contributed and they made up enough money to buy a vehicle for the community. And that is very, very, very commendable. For them to know that they are being given something and for them to do something in return, that is just very, very good.
Well, one of the challenges they raise is the long distance to accessing quality health care for pregnant women. Is the government doing anything to offer lasting solution to this?
Yes, the government has done. We have that program of Haihuwa Lafiya, which is under my ministry. We bought vehicles for the pregnant women to be conveyed to hospitals, but later we found that that one is not enough. So we had a transport system established. Now we have drivers that take the women to the hospitals when they are in need. But the women did it solely for their own community. But the government has a program of its own, and that is Transport Express. Before it's called the Haihuwa Lafiya, but now it's the Transport Express that we are using to cater women from their various communities to the nearest hospitals when they have any problem.
Okay, well, now, a research in 2017 put total lifetime risk of maternal deaths in Jigawa State to 6.6%. That's about one death in every 15 births. Could this be linked to access to healthcare facilities and other social infrastructure? And how are you working to beat that number?
Okay. Well, what we have done now is to have a primary health center in nearly every ward of the local government areas of Jigawa State. Every ward now has a primary health center. The problem is the sensitization. The women don't want to come to the hospital. They don't want to come because I think traditionally they are being prevented from doing so. But now we are sensitizing them. We are making them aware that they should visit the hospitals. And as they have the primary health centers very near to them now, a lot of the women are going to the hospital. And if you can check now, you will see that the records are very, very lower than those in 2017, because the women now are aware that if they are pregnant, they should go to the hospital and they should visit the health centers, and anyone with a serious problem is being referred to bigger hospitals with bigger, much, much better amenities. So now what we are doing is bringing them nearer to the health facilities, and they are making use of them.
All right, then, Dao, thank you for joining us today on Africa 54.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Anxiety and confusion gripped Zimbabwe's black farmers after the government's announcement that it would return land to some white farmers who were kicked off their land under former President Robert Mugabe. As Columbus Mavunga reports from Harare, authorities seek to reassure resettled black farmers in what some fear may be a reversal of land reforms.
Henry von Pesselt lost his land in 2001 as Zimbabwe's government adopted a sweeping land reform policy and began forcing whites off their farms. Now he may get it back thanks to an agreement between the German and Zimbabwean governments to protect private investments in their respective countries, known as Bilateral Investment Promotion and Protection Agreement, which the Zimbabwean government had ignored when it took the land. The German national took Zimbabwe's government to the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes. The arbitration court based in Washington ordered the Zimbabwean government to pay compensation to von Pesselt. He is cautiously optimistic following the government's announcement last week that it would give back land to some white farmers.
It's a very positive step that the government recognizes its international obligations. However, we've had many such announcements before, and we will be looking for deeds rather than words, and we'll be interested to see what government actually does.
The Commercial Farmers Union, which represented white farmers in Zimbabwe, refused to comment on the latest announcement by the government. Back in July, Zimbabwe's government signed an agreement with the union to pay $3.5 billion in compensation to white commercial farmers who lost their land, although it remains unclear how the government will raise the money. 63-year-old Emiliana Durie, a former Zimbabwean soldier, is one of those that received part of Ton Petsol's land in 2001. She hopes the government's repossession of land will not affect her.
It would be painful that the land that we fought for, I am being asked to pave way for a white person when he had left. It's really painful. I will then start to ask, what did I fight for? It's the land only, so I must not be displaced, even for another black person, because there is no one who is more important than the other. We are all equal, so it's painful.
Zimbabwe's government says only 3% of those resettled will be affected by the new announcement. The rest of the white farmers will be paid for developments they made on their former properties. The government, meanwhile, wants farmers to concentrate on preparing for the 2020-2021 agricultural season, which began last week with tobacco planting.
We now need to move to a second stage, which is ensuring that we increase agricultural productivity, we increase production, and we increase profitability so that agriculture becomes a business, so that this country moves its way up into food security territory now into the future.
Government critics say Zimbabwe's agriculture, once the backbone of the economy, went into freefall when Mugabe confiscated land from white commercial farmers and gave it to inexperienced blacks like Durie. The government attributes the decline to recurring droughts, which it blames on global climate change. Columbus Mavunga for VOA News, Harare.
Youths in Northeast Africa are stepping forward to proffering lasting solution to the security problem in their country. The youths are interfacing with the United Nations Security Council on Youth, Peace and Security. They consider dialogue as a potent resource in addressing the situation in the country.
Somali youths gather here in Mogadishu from all regions of the East African country. It is one of such efforts by the youths to proffer solution to the peace and security challenges confronting the country. These youths are informal groups of volunteers that are finding ways to mobilize their peers.
Although young Somalis face many challenges and have very limited opportunities, long before the adoption of Resolution 2250, they have been working to create change, to build peace, and to accelerate development.
The United Nations Security Council on Youth, Peace and Security is calling for a virtual meeting co-hosted by France and the Dominican Republic, which allows for sharing lessons and implementing resolutions on youth, peace and security. UN officials speak about their respective departments' work in supporting the implementation of the resolutions and best practices in implementing the youth, peace and security agenda by UN missions.
The continued support of member states, and importantly, the Security Council, is needed to make further progress on this agenda. We must build on the fact that the active participation and inclusion of young people in political processes in peace building is no longer viewed as an optional or as an afterthought. It has rightly become one of the cornerstones of the sustaining peace agenda.
Young people are essential actors of peace. In order for them to have this opportunity, their needs need to be addressed, their voices amplified, and their engagement advanced.
The United Nations Council highlights the key role that young people can play in conflict prevention, conflict resolution, peace building, and sustaining peace, as well as the importance of facilitating youth participation and leadership in these areas.
When Ghana closed schools in mid-March because of the coronavirus, they quickly had to turn to remote learning using online lessons and educational TV shows. For the youngest learners, Ghana's government has partnered with USAID to provide a radio learning program for millions of students. Stacey Nat reports from Accra.
In this Accra community, Dora Ope rounds up neighbourhood children to join her for a radio reading program. She says since the program began 2 months ago, her young son's reading has improved. She gathers other children whose parents are working and encourages them to keep learning too.
I look at this long time from March, and we don't know the actual time they will ask them to come to school. So that's why I'm urging them to learn, so that by the time school will open, at least they will know something and read at least.
The hour-long programs are broadcast 6 days a week and rely on learning through play. USAID already had reading programs in Ghana when it joined the government and other partners to offer this radio reading program.
This really is a democratic approach. It gets out to the whole population, because the whole population actually, like 93%, goes to primary school. And this really builds that, presents a way of providing services to a large part of your population.
Ghana's education minister says the program is aimed at kindergarten and primary school children and will continue to be used post-pandemic.
We can have parents using the programs to assist their children at home as well. So the data, the recordings, the resources we are putting, we're digitizing and putting out, it's going to be of tremendous importance to learning in this country.
Technology and learning will require much needed training for teachers, education expert Jonathan Fletcher says.
Hopefully, this situation will help people to learn in different ways, and that will be an additional skill, or people develop expertise in the use of different strategies in teaching.
Fletcher notes that online learning doesn't make up for learning in the classroom, adding that not everyone has access to radios and other devices needed for remote learning. The government says it is working on a safe reopening of schools as soon as possible. Stacey Nat for VOA News, Accra.
People in the hospitality business in South Africa have decided not to sit and lament the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on their businesses. While they hope their borders will be opened to international flight to boost their trade, they're now turning attention to domestic travelers.
Before now, this waterfront in Cape Town would have been agog with tourists from different parts of the world, jostling for space. But now, it is empty, except for a few local customers patronizing the place every now and then to catch a glimpse of the South African city's scenery.
If you look around, it's really quite sad. I mean, this would normally be a bustling part of the waterfront, and Robert Allen would be running queues. But I think the opportunity for locals now is that this offer is going to be available without the queues, without the busyness.
The country is one of the most hit by the coronavirus pandemic that is shaking the world and changing the way things are done. It takes its toll on every sector, from health, economy, education, you name it. Many in the hospitality sector foresee a huge challenge.
The hardest hit obviously been the hotels. Most of our hotels are kind of upper end here, so most of the 5-6-star hotels are closed, and they don't intend to open before December.
In 2019, the country played host to more than 10 million international visitors, targeting an 8.7% year-on-year growth. That with a projection to rake in over $16.15 billion from tourist spending.
The closing of our borders has impacted us because 70% of our tourists are international, especially in the Safari Lodge properties. So at this point, those properties are not being booked at all. Local tourism really in Cape Town it can survive, but it's at a hugely reduced rate. So for us, we really are opening just for the purpose of keeping our staff employed.
Tourist-focused businesses are now focusing on domestic travelers in a bid to stay afloat, since South Africans can now travel between provinces for the first time since March.
Is this the two best girls and boys?
Prices have also been slashed by 50% for staycation deals at properties like its 5-star hotels in Cape Town and luxury safari lodges previously frequented by wealthy Americans and Europeans. The government is aiming at relaunching the sector, taking advantage of domestic travel.
Well, people trapped inside during the coronavirus lockdown are playing a lot of video games. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, entrepreneurs are catering to young people's love for video games and sharing the gaming experience with small groups of friends. Anastasia Tudieshe reports from Kinshasa.
Jonathan Nyembo is in the last year of medical school, so the 25-year-old has a challenging workload. But when he can, he relaxes by playing video games.
So I'm really busy with everything I do because saving lives is the most important thing. But sometimes when we have free time, maybe once or twice a month, we say to ourselves, why not find some friends, some brothers, and come play a little game to balance things out.
Nyembo plays at the Immersion Gaming Hall in Kinshasa's Gombe neighborhood. Manager Paul Belingo says it is a place to relieve stress and pursue the passion that brings gamers together.
In this room, firstly, we find virtual reality. Here are some of the different games: football games, fights, missions, car racing games. There is also the Oculus, which is a device that lets you play in 360 degrees.
Not everyone can afford to play at Immersion, which charges $10 an hour. But gamer Christelle Nidem Kalenga says Kinshasa gamers represent a broad cross-section of Congolese society.
I will say that most gamers are between 16 and 25 years old. Most of them still live with their parents. They're students. Contrary to what people may think, they are not all from well-off families. So they live very, very far from the city and practice in smaller game rooms.
Jogo Marcelo's gaming hall serves a different clientele, but the passion for video games is the same.
Oh, let me tell you, people come in droves. When there is no electricity shortage, there is no downtime. I would say I welcome 30 to 40 people a day.
Marcelo opened his hall in 2014 as a way to profit from his love of gaming and keep young people out of trouble.
For just 50 cents, they can have a great time and avoid who knows what. How cool, right?
Kalanga sees major opportunity for Congolese entrepreneurs.
Worldwide, the video game economy is currently worth over $100 billion US, and Africa takes only 4% of that. 4%. Africa still has room for improvement in this business.
Like Marcelo, Kalanga found a way to turn her passion into profit. She held Congo's first Comic-Con event 2 years ago, dubbing it Manga and Geeks.
Between 2018 and 2019, I tripled the number of participants. After the first edition, I realized there was a real economy behind the games.
But before the gaming industry can really take off, these entrepreneurs say they need steady electricity, more affordable and reliable internet connections, and infrastructure improvements. Anastasia Tudieshe for VOA News, Kinshasa.
Well, and that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Channels Television has our last word from Lagos.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. ChannelsTV.com is your source for news and other programming. I'm Chamberlain Uso. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.